tempo reps. Now, if you've been following me for some time now, you know that I'm a big fan of tempo. I'm a big fan of tempo because when you get to heavier weights, eventually your joints end up being the thing that limit you because it hurts. There has been research to show that there is no difference between muscular hypertrophy between a tempo of normal all the way up to 8 seconds. Now, me personally, I think this is quite fascinating because from when I was growing up, it's always about eccentric training. But when we look between the lines, some people may say that this is a waste of time to do tempo. That is incorrect. Because if you start to think about it, if there is no muscular hypertrophy between the tempos of 1 to 8, that means you can actually work your muscles with less weight using higher tempos to get the same effect. And this works really well for people who have joint pain, because if you can't load up 100 kilos on your back, but you can still do it with a 60 kilo weight for 8 seconds on the way down and still get the same muscular hypertrophy effect, that means we found new ways to be able to grow muscle. This is amazing because not only that, now you're strengthening other supporting structures, because we know that higher tempo based work is going to help better with mobility as well as strengthening tendons as well. So that's really, really cool to know. Now, for those of you out there, how do you start implementing tempo into your reps? And I used to be a really big fan of doing things like 8 seconds on the way down, 10 seconds on the way down. Although they do have their merit, I found that they are mentally exhausting, and by the end of the workout, you actually have a bit of a CNS overload. So this is where I liked to use maybe roughly around 3 to 5 seconds. And this is more than enough for anybody to be able to train and still get really good gains out of it. Not even saying that, you start to get really good balance through your structure as well. So this is where, and I'm going to go through this a little bit later on how you can actually use tempo with the multiple other factors of AMRAPs as well as drop sets to help you get more out of your training sessions. But first of all, I like to use most of my tempos from the eccentric because there are 3 ways that you can load it. And if you want to know more information about this, I won't do it in today's podcast because this will go on forever, which is the reason why I love talking about this stuff. Put a microphone in front of me and I'll teach you as much as I can. But if you want to know more about tempo, please just don't be afraid to email me and I'll put it all in the show notes and descriptions as well. But typically we're using exercises, say for example, let's go with the Bulgarian split squat once again, and we're going for 3 seconds on the way down. This will give you a great stretch in your posterior leg or the leg on the bench because you're stretching that hip flexor, which most people tend to have really tight. Then when we're leaning forward, you can actually get the load of the quad on the left leg as well. Benefits on both sides, and when you're not using something as heavy, say some people can load up as much as 40 kilos on each side, including myself, but the balance becomes an issue. And then when you get heavier and heavier, your lower back starts to limit you, your grip strength starts to limit you. So we want to try and load up those quads without having to load up those joints. And so I can probably get the same effect using something like 30 kilos on a Bulgarian split squat instead of having to use 40 kilos too, where it just gets a little bit awkward in terms of trying to hold it because it's such a large dumbbell.